Hello, welcome. We are ready to start the career webinar with Shel Miller, Identifying Your Unique Talents and Values. I'd like to welcome you today. My name is Heather Wilkerson. I am one of the career program managers here with Brown Alumni Relations, and I'm going to be the host today. I am very excited that we're able to bring you this career webinar series from all of our experienced Brown coaches. I just wanted to give a few housekeeping tips. On your screen, you should have our open slide, and to the top are some tabs, and to the right is the navigation panels where you should be able to use the chat function and be able to see polls when we load them. There are over 100 people registered, so that we do ask that you keep the call on mute. I should have the video off, but if for some reason your video comes up, please turn that off. And as your host, please send all your chats to me, and I will handle if you have any technical problems or you have any questions. And then during the question periods, I will pose those to Shel, or we'll send them out to everybody. So just know that the chat's over here and the posts over there. Along the top, there's some tabs, one that says Miller Assessments. We will be going through a couple of the assessments, and when we do, please use that to scroll down through them. Note that there are 3 different assessments, and it's 5 pages in all, and the third one is 3 pages long, so just so that you're aware. Also, this is technology, so there's chances that we might have glitches. I apologize in advance, and to let you know that if for some reason you get disconnected, we are recording this session, and it will be uploaded in a couple of weeks to our website, so you'll be able to view it then. So I would like to go ahead and introduce our speaker. We have Shel Miller with us today. He's the founder of Executive Perspectives in Brookline, Massachusetts. He coaches executives, families, and couples. His consultations have enhanced social capital, productivity, customer satisfaction, and bottom line profits in corporate structures, high growth biotech companies, and family businesses. Since his father was a family business owner, Shel understands firsthand the personal experience of both the highly successful entrepreneur and his partners. Shel graduated from Brown with honors, and then he earned a full fellowship and PhD in clinical psychology at the University of North Carolina. I might add that his son is also a Brown graduate. He worked for 21 years at Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. He also has creatively used video technology to coach clients in their self-presentation. In addition, he trains teams to work in the collaborative law. He builds or restores successful working relationships among partners at work or at home, and helps his clients with life strategies to integrate work and family life. Shel is committed to assisting others to enjoy a positive journey to success through personal development. So welcome, Shel.
Thank you, Heather, Eve, and the rest of the Brown Alumni Relations staff. It's a very special pleasure to be reminded of my 4 exciting years at Brown during the heady days of the 60s, expanding my horizons academically while listening to Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, a time when the campus was so active given the war demonstrations and the internal planning of changes to the curriculum. Even the food at the Ratty was improved by the time I left, thanks to the efforts of our infamous class president. And I know that it is still a fantastic learning environment because my oldest son, Josh, graduated from Brown in 2004 with the same fondness. I must spare you further details of my and his wonderful memories. As I change focus, I want to thank each of you for joining this webinar today. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to discuss optimal ways of leveraging your skills, values, and strengths. By the end of this webinar, you'll have a clearer understanding of how to pitch yourself in any circumstance. In this webinar format, we will have the opportunity to react with Heather's help, as she will gather questions, comments, and contributions you have to offer about your skills and values.
So if you look on the right, you'll see I loaded a poll, and a lot of people are starting to answer that. So I'll give it another minute or 2, and then I will close that out, and we can look at the results.
So this webinar will cover 3 topics: recognizing what you are doing with your life versus what you're doing for a living. Secondly, taking the time to reflect upon your distinct values, skills, and strengths. And finally, finding the right match between your talents and job role. How would you combine the values of need for profit at all costs, the skills of manipulating various size beakers and chemicals in the chem lab, along with your innate talents for teaching or winning over other people? Bryan Cranston, playing Brian White, does just this in the AMC TV series Breaking Bad. A cash-strapped chemistry teacher, he struggles with inoperable lung cancer. Without health benefits, he combines passion and purpose by approaching a former student dropout drug dealer as a partner. They then infiltrate the right networks to become successful crystal meth manufacturers and salesmen. Now he can pay his medical bills and provide for his pregnant wife and family posthumously. Though this is an illegal, destructive model that I certainly don't recommend, it illustrates a few points. He still teaches high school for a living, but now he has made a quick, desperate decision to also change what he's doing with his life. Teaching was a calling. That career evolved with a great deal more thought about his many values besides profit. Now, what if the teacher wanted to become a principal? He would have to connect with key people in a school system. One of his talents would have to include managing others across disciplines, gifted and talented teachers, special ed teachers, the superintendent, and so on. And he would be an exceptional collaborator. The managerial role ideally includes sensitivity to staff talents and role performance. Managers need to be responsive to and coordinate with their employees. And you may need to remind yourself that while you have certain talents, so do others with whom you will want to communicate. And those talents will often be different from yours. Your conversational style may also be different. Some of us like to be direct, to the point, and efficient, while others are much more indirect, polite, and reticent. Both styles are right. As Mike Kennedy of talentanalytics.com points out, if you understand the other's talents and how yours are complementary or colliding, you'll be better prepared to assess your potential for success in a particular workplace group. Here's a relevant story. A fairly new hire, Jennifer, had shared with her employer, Grace, that she was the youngest sister of two girls and that she usually received unwanted guidance from her oldest sister. The manager, Grace, was an older sister of three younger brothers. She was used to heated debates with them. She'd become quite persuasive in presenting her ideas. Though Jennifer was a competent worker, Grace became exasperated with her. Every time Grace asked Jennifer to take responsibility for a project, she found an excuse to decline. Grace considered firing her assistant until coached to think about Grace's wider experiences, either in her work or family history. What was it about the match between her and Jennifer that might lead to the best approach to working well together? Grace decided to consider their family differences. Awareness of colleagues' needs provides an opportunity to finesse potential stressful situations. Ann Creamer, a former worldwide creative director for Nickelodeon and a Fast Company columnist, says, as our working culture has become integrated and more complex, deeper understanding of emotional response is essential to message. Our primitive instincts and emotions are always in play, she adds. Infantile drives compel us to behaviors that can work against our interests. It's always personal. So, Heather, I think we'll go to slide 3 now.
Okay, I just thought you might want to mention to people that it looks like we have a pretty even mix of who's on the call. People are in different stages, and you know what's great about your information is that I think it's really going to appeal to everyone. And please feel free to send us questions that relate to your specific situation, and then we can make sure you get referred to the right places. And now your slide's up.
All right. So what are you doing with your life? Integration of values, skills, and talents requires deliberate consideration. Yes, you want health benefits and a proposal job, but you also want to be creating a life that's ethically fulfilling. By slowing down and reviewing the values and skills list we sent ahead, you've laid the groundwork for integrating practiced and preferred skills with enduring values. A few minutes of focused thinking enables you to better identify key values. How might you rate how well your current or future work does or will reflect values of, say, harmony, competence, and mastery? There are many approaches to identifying talents. Some require hours of testing and subsequent discussion with experts about the meaning of the results. One way is simple and requires coaching in how to approach your family of origin, sort of like an anthropologist's assessment of one's own family dynamics and culture. One can do that when older and a bit more distant from one's own family system. This anthropological assessment requires clever guidance. The challenge is to learn more about strengths from your family models without getting caught up in perceived weaknesses of those family members. Now, a comparative test response approach enables you to recognize innate strengths in another way. A 30-minute, 180-question online test is available, for example, at Strengthsfinder.com. The reference appears in the last slide of this presentation. I recommend that you explore this valuable tool on your own later on. You will generate your top 5 talents and then be able to contemplate their overlap with your values and skills. So we're going to start with your self-report regarding values and skills, which will help you identify quickly a great deal about yourself, certain aspects of yourself. We're going to start with identifying emotional and mental habits by sending you later to the Strengthsfinder's Gallup poll comparative test result. And we're going to study the overlap of skills, values, and strengths to get you to be integrating well rather than breaking bad. Integrating well is putting what you offer together with where you're and whom you fit. So I think we'll go on to finding a job to fit your skill set. Let's talk about skills. As an example, we'll look at the top 5 skills and later the values and strengths of one Ryan Wagner. For confidentiality's sake, it's not his real name. He knew from past experiences that they love to analyze data and solve number problems, as you see on the slide. He enjoyed research, problem solving, and public speaking. Considering his skills more carefully than before, he was able to clarify further the type of job that might keep him engaged. Now, the document for the skills is something we were going to look at here, perhaps, Heather?
Yeah, so I'm going to show everyone what it looks like, and then you feel free to visit it at your will. You can scroll down on the side, and when we get to the other assessments, you can choose the page numbers. Okay? So I'm going to go back to our presentation, but you feel free to stay to click on the assessments yourself.
So if you didn't review this prior to the webinar, take a minute to peruse the list now. See if there's any surprises. Think about whether you're using your best skills in your current position.
Shel, there's a couple of questions coming in about skills. The first one is, what about any skills that may not be listed on this assessment?
Right. Obviously, if you know you have certain skills that are on this short list, you would want to note them, and we'll talk about where later. But if you really wanted to delve into it further, I recommend you go to vetswork.org, where there are lots of lists. In fact, there's a dozen categories of skills on that website, and each one of the categories has at least a dozen or more sub-skills. That will sort of prompt you to think further about other skills, not here. Was there another question, Heather?
Yes, and I just sent out that site to everyone through the chat. Let's see. Yeah, there's another question that came in. How should you use the information you gather in the skills assessment?
Okay, that's great. That's actually where I was going next. I'm going to give you another one of my client skill lists. Teaching, research, analysis, problem solving, and science and lab work. Now this could have come from Brian, the lead character in Breaking Bad, but it actually came from Ronald. He's a 40-year-old consultant working at, feeling stuck in, an international consulting firm for the past several years.
Hey, Shel, I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. There's a lot of static coming through on the line. Okay, I just didn't know if it was you. I thought I'd give you a heads up if you weren't hearing it.
Yeah, I am. But I don't know where it's coming from.
We'll persevere. I'll see if I can fix it on our side.
Okay. I think it's getting better. So, are we still connected?
We're definitely connected, and the static is much better. So I don't know what happened, but thank you.
Okay. So, this didn't come from Brian on Breaking Bad. It came from Ronald, a 40-year-old consultant working at and feeling stuck in an international consulting firm for the past several years. His job required extensive travel. Identifying those skills helped him to update his resume and focus on seeking a more fulfilling local job. He wanted to balance his life and settle down with a life partner, a step that he felt he couldn't achieve while constantly traveling. When Ronald chose to write down his skills, values, and talents, he was able to discuss in a more focused way how to move forward. When I first met Ronald, he was so burned out that it was hard for him to even get himself to work in the morning. Some weeks later, while confident that he could envision an improved career path, he was able to resume a 60-hour work week while practicing new management skills. He is patiently biding his time while finally arranging job interviews, as well as revamping his social life, both with more self-confidence. Like Ronald, identifying your preferred skills will enable you to gain a clearer understanding of your abilities and possibilities for following your dreams. Later, you may want to ponder your Strengthsfinder's results and confirm the overlap from test results with skills you have listed. I would suggest you list those skills that are also reflective of your tested top 5 talents at the top of your resume. The skill set that you offer also reflects your accomplishments to date and differentiates your resume from the rest. Your prospective employer is on radio station WIFM, an acronym, as you probably know, standing for What's in It for Me, as he or she considers what you have to offer. You'll want to know which skills are being sought by a particular company in a particular role. If you have any of the pertinent skills, this is not the time to be reticent. Indeed, your confidence in a certain skill set should be on display, both in the resume and during your job interview. Brian, our budding public speaker who loved data analysis and solving number problems, had enjoyed a few months in South America, where he became attuned to environmental concerns. His plan was to apply for jobs at relevant consulting firms. His hope was that it would spur his further growth as a budding entrepreneur. He was also concerned about life balance. That meant developing courage in negotiating geographic options with his girlfriend, who was about to finish her master's degree. She was ready to catch up with him and forging a career of her own. Note the importance of keeping an eye on that prize in the context of life balance as one of his top values, as you see on the slide. Now, if you haven't already done so, please choose your top 3 values. They are listed on the second page of the assessment document. In our competitive, independence-oriented society, we sometimes think we are bounded, separate beings. But the fact is that we are multiple relational beings, each of which reflect our memories of admired, significant others. As you see on the graphic on the left, we have many images in our head reminding us that we have multiple selves. Our values reflect that. Those images are always there, though we're not always conscious of them. Who we become is determined by those with whom we associate as well. So, the question becomes not just who am I in the workplace, but with whom might I best co-create my developing career path. If you are going to be a business analyst, an accountant, an attorney, or physician, much of your peer group and post-grad studies will be determined for you. But what if you have to create your own structure? What if you want to express your top values if they were fun, humor, and creativity, like Jerry Sue? She is working on forging a career as a comedy performer and writer. By the way, if creativity is at the top of your list, have you thought of writing a newsletter for your company or department if you're employed in a corporate job? That would serve you well in any future career. Once you have thought about your skills and values, let's take it one step further. Reflect on whether they are or are not showing up enough in your work life. So we're going to touch on the poll now. Heather?
So as you see, I launched a poll. We want to get your feedback. What do you think? Are you using these skills and values in your current job? And if not, what does that say to you? Or can you envision being able to use it now, maybe in a different role? Or can you envision a career that might allow you a better chance to do that?
If there's a match between skills and values in the job position you're in now, you're going to be more engaged and certainly less stressed. In the book, Now Discover Your Strengths, Buckingham and Clifton list 34 themes of strengths studied via Gallup poll surveys in the workplace. Their analysis of your responses to the Strengthsfinders test will help you compare yourself to others in the workplace and clarify what engages you naturally, how you perceive the world, and what you are inclined to do effortlessly. So, the premise of this management study, a follow-up to Buckingham's first Break All the Rules, is that the most effective method for motivating people to inspire them to become engaged employers and managers is to build on their strengths or talents rather than correcting their weaknesses. The authors, researchers at the Gallup organization, have analyzed results of interviews conducted by Gallup of nearly 2 million employees from 101 companies and 63 countries. I see we have some results, Heather. Almost half.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
it's definitely a breakup.
Yep. Okay.
I think as you're talking about strengths, that's a good way for people to further add this to the list, don't you think?
Yes, a lot of times people are offered coaching to make up for their weaknesses and try to create more strengths, but it's really much better to get coaching for your strengths and keep moving with them and developing yourself in that way. Mm-hmm. Now, Ryan, our key example here, was happy to discover that his known skill set dovetailed nicely with the strengths manifest in his test results. The fact that he tested high on focus was a surprise and an important confidence booster. He had informed me that he had many of the qualities of his very successful entrepreneurial grandfather, but he feared that he lacked the ability to focus. Focus officially rounds out his tested strengths, as you see on the slide, and he knew that if he delayed discussions about the future with his girlfriend, he would create conflict rather than possible consensus or harmony. Given the combination of his values with these innate talents or strengths, he no longer was convinced that he needed to spend early career years in one of the large, prestigious consulting firms. More about that later.
So if people haven't, they should probably look at the Strengthsfinder up in the assessment tool.
So, Kaufman and Gonzalez-Molina provide a convincing argument that superior performance is not the exclusive product of the rational mind. No matter how appealing it is to business to believe that this might be so, talent, as determined on the Strengthsfinders test, combines and utilizes the full circuitry of the brain, both rational and emotional, in the endless pursuit of productive outcome. Quality performance does, of course, require knowledge and skills, but talent makes it happen, and talent and engagement at work are emotionally driven. So, it's a good time to take another look, if you haven't studied already, the 34 themes of strength in the assessment document, pages 3 to 5. Ryan Wagner had been worried about projecting the right image of how he needed to be viewed. He thought he had to overcome his pedigree, having graduated from a non-Ivy League college. He imagined competing with others seen with a supposedly more elite halo. But given a better understanding of the integration of his skills, values, and strengths in collecting, analyzing, and presenting data, he had some authentic talking points. They would lead him to relax and disclose his real self, rather than forcing onto interviewers an anxiously crafted image of what he had been thinking would please them. He had begun as well to come to grips with the influence of his family. He plans a private, face-to-face interview with each of his parents in order to learn about their and their own parents' work histories. What were the decisions about values, goals, and vision, both fulfilled and unfulfilled, by the most significant role models in your early life? You might begin by asking yourself about the stories you've heard about pride at work. What does it mean to be a Wagner, for example? What is great about Uncle Joe's Wagner's contribution to society? What did he love to perform seemingly effortlessly, living a satisfying lifestyle while also earning a living? Please let me know later if you have any further questions about how to go about such interviewing of your family of origin. When I first began consulting to Ryan, his main concern was with whom to network and how to nail the next job interview process. Armed later with a deeper understanding of who he was from several different perspectives, what he cared about, and what he was bringing to the table, he could better articulate his value and relate his skills and convey passion during the interview process. Heather, are we about ready to go to the next slide?
Okay, so here was a little bit about Ryan. And are you ready for the Venn diagram?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Please note the phrases in italics on the right under the overlap section. Here we have the recurring ingredients from 3 different circles representing different aspects of Ryan's potentially unfolding work identity. Ryan had studied hard and made few attempts at friendships in college. When he got accepted into an MBA program, he developed a strategy that changed all that. And years later, he had so many friends that part of the help he needed from me was advice on how to stay on track. He was worried that he would surrender to hanging out with his less focused friends. His strategy involved staying connected primarily with the more serious, entrepreneurial-oriented associates. With coaching, he chose the better path to his desired goal, integrating well rather than breaking bad. Breaking bad in this sense would mean becoming alienated in distracting relationships, not just turning criminal. We need a strategy to coordinate with, not alienate from others. Let's switch back for a moment to Jerry Sue, the developing comedian. She found out that her top strengths included communication and WOO, which stands for winning others over. That was the last one on the slide, page 5 of the assessments. She continued to build the all-important networks in the entertainment industry. She's also building a bank of material for written, visual, and performance media. She utilizes her organizational skills and positivity talent with other optimistic partners in her startup, a production company. She is integrating her skills, values, and strengths into her entire way of enjoying life, co-creating her future profession with her like-minded friends, while also earning money in a sustaining job of her own. In that job, she utilizes her creativity doing graphic and web design as an independent contractor. Armed, again, with such self-knowledge, one maintains confidence and patience, particularly necessary attributes, on the long haul to achieving one's vision of success in a career. Jerry Sue is following her passion in ways that relate to her life and career, but also in her current approach to earning adequate revenue in exciting projects that pay the rent. She is always between volunteer performance opportunities, and she stays herself on the way to her big break. So, Heather, are you dealing with any questions now?
Yeah, Shel, I'm getting a few questions. Would a couple of people talking about the assessments. First of all, a few people have said they've had trouble scrolling through, so I'm going to go ahead.
Put that slide back up
And
yourself.
pull up the Miller assessments and
Okay.
take a second to show everybody different tabs. And then here's the Strengthsfinder. Well, a question that came in was, would you share the information from the self-assessments with a mentor?
Well, that depends. We have to be sure we're defining mentor in the way that I think about mentor first, I would think. And that would be someone that you've selected to be your mentor because you really trust and admire and envy that person. And certainly, if it's someone you can take a risk with and be somewhat vulnerable with, absolutely let him know your assessments and discuss it with him or her. If it's your boss and he's been set up to be your mentor as well, or someone else in the organization has been assigned to you as mentor, and you're not feeling that it would be quite so safe, then you might have second thoughts.
Okay, another one is, can you speak to successfully transitioning from one role to another within the same organization? You know, for those people who said, yeah, not really using my skills here, but, you know, it's the values fit with the company.
Absolutely. If the culture is not right for you, and you have the respect of people in the organization at the executive level, you might be able to look at other job postings and get support to transfer somewhere else in the organization. I've worked with a physician, for example, who had been a specialist with her expertise in a particular disease, helping the company with compliance issues with a particular drug that addressed that disease. And she decided that at one point that the particular department wasn't really suited for her, and she started to look around to see who she'd rather work with and what she'd rather do, and she was able to transfer within the organization to be an international consultant. She spoke a different language, came from a different country, and was able to arrange to do something that was a bit more adventurous in the area of medical marketing. So definitely consider that. Let's go on here. Do you want to go back to the slide we're on, Heather?
Shel, I'm clicking on it. If people are scrolling in and out, it won't let me come back. So if you can finish looking up, that means people are reading it, so that's good. So as soon as everyone's done, yep, there goes. It might let me come back in. There was one.
Everyone. Go ahead.
There was one more interesting question that came that I thought I might throw out to you for now.
Yeah.
How often do you recommend doing self-assessment tests?
Well, the reasons that I gave you some very simple ones here, plus the Strengthsfinder, there's one which only takes a half hour, is because there are a lot of tests out there that I think people can get bogged in with, and I don't often recommend many others. We can talk about some later, but the main idea I have put in your mind today is that you can get a lot just by slowing down. We often have a tendency to make decisions with what some people call the fast thinking system in our brain, where we're using our emotions and we're worried about survival. And in order to get your prefrontal cortex to kick in and use the slow thinking system of your brain, you just need to do a little bit of deliberation. And that's the reason for for these kind of assessments.
That's a lot to think about.
Yep.
Are you? So I think that's all the questions for now. Thanks, Shel.
Okay. So when it comes to integrating well, one needs to assess the potential relationships in the organization you may want to create or enter. Ask how you will become an integral part of improving that system. It's not enough to think that integration occurs just within oneself, where you confidently know the overlap of your own skills, values, and strengths, of your emotions, and of your rational thinking. A potential employer wants to know that you'll be ambitiously using your particular knowledge and capacities in ways that contribute to the success of the whole. According to a McKinsey survey of almost 8,000 executives, 80% of executives rate their organization as ineffective at or experiencing difficulty with critical collaborations. So if you have learned from your self-assessment that you are highly strategic, good with problem-solving skills, and value connectedness, then you can talk about these skills and values that reflect your natural tendency to want to build community. We are living in a knowledge economy where collaboration is expected. You need to demonstrate how you can work with others. It is great to know your skills, and important as well to communicate them in a manner that supports others. Being successful in this manner in your current position will pay off in your next endeavor. As Ruth Simmons, president of Brown University, said in a New York Times interview on December 3rd, if you reach down and talk about something that is deeply meaningful to you and not intended to impress me as a future employer, that's what I care about. That helps me see what your character is, what you're made of, how you were formed as a human being. You're trying to get at, she's trying to get at, whether they will be a good member of the team, trying to get at whether they will care about other people, trying to get at whether they will have high standards for their job, or whether they will just be trying to please people. Whatever the work context, small business, family business, independent contracting, or show business, you need to replace intense reactivity and judgmental attitude with the aforementioned patient responsiveness of Grace to her assistant Jennifer. As the youngest sister, Jennifer was used to getting detailed instructions and resented it. Grace realized that when she came on strong with detail, not authoritarian, but with enthusiastic style, Jennifer was likely to automatically oppose. A mother of adult children, she saw herself as a mature, accomplished, and independent thinker. Grace found a way to float her ideas to inspire her assistant to suggest the ideas on her own, so that she would feel ownership rather than a reactive, knee-jerk need to debate. That different kind of communication emerged out of a decision to reflect upon differences in one's personal family history and habits. Jennifer, of course, would have done well to understand herself as well as her supervisor came to understand her. After all, in her quickest resistance, she did tend to go to the other extreme from bending over backwards to please others. I would hope you move towards such self-awareness in the process of doing the assessments I've mentioned today. Coordinating with others on a team takes time and reflection, but if you do your due diligence in your search, you will be able to take note of red and green flags. You can sense whether or not you can create and build a positive relationship with a prospective boss or assistant. Whether you are the potential hire or the supervisor for a new hire, you owe it to yourself to spend sufficient time in interviews before a final decision. Ideally, you might want a trial run where you offer an extended period of time, say a couple of weeks being in the situation, even without pay, to get a feel for the skills, values, and ambience in the workplace. Some people have even hired mentors if they know the fields into which they are trying to break. The best example of that approach is Vacations, which lists dozens of successful mentors for hire in various work situations. What better than to work alongside someone proud and passionate and fully engaged in what they are doing? It would be great to have such a mini apprenticeship, but for most of us, just slowing down to reflect and generally lead you to integrating well instead of breaking bad and a satisfying job and worthwhile life. That's where communication, action, and meaning all come together. One last comment about important skills and talents crucial to my own career. My overlapping skills and strengths include problem solving and rekindling vitality. At Brown University, I found an academic and social laboratory for developing them. In college and beyond, I found new ways to express my values of unflappability, efficiency, and humor. I wish you the best in further developing in your own career the lessons learned about yourself from your experience at Brown and beyond. I think the resources are self-explanatory. The Strengthsfinders.com is the website where you go to take their test, and there are several books, starting with Now Discover Your Strengths, that are available for purchase. You can get them at places like Amazon for less than $20, and you need to buy one of the books. There are others that are specifically oriented to developing your career or looking at your sales strengths if you're in that domain. Each of the books has a code inside the jacket cover, and you use that code to take the test at no additional charge. I see you.
Shel, I appreciate you providing some resources. As we discussed, we thought it might be interesting to see if people had found some other resources that they had found really helpful. And I know that you had a couple of other resources that you did like as well.
Yeah, we've mentioned vetswork.org. You could also go to careerpath.com, where you can do a test and skills assessment. And it's fun to do it, and you get some immediate feedback, some of which you can get for free, and it's fairly accurate. Years ago, I took the Strong Vocational Interest Inventory, which is much more complicated to do because you have to have someone help you that knows how to score it and interpret it back to you. But some of the results I got on that test came up right away within 5 minutes after taking the careerpath.com test. There's also, for those of you who are interested in understanding temperament or personality characteristics, a website called Keirsey.com. That's KEIRSEY.com, where you can take the very well-researched Keirsey Temperament Sorter. Have you gotten any other recommendations from the audience?
There's a couple coming in. It looks like there's also a few in process.
Okay.
I did send out a chat to everyone with those two references. So that should help give us up. I think I'll give people final chance to answer. There is a couple, and we will close this out. I think what's been great here is that there is a whole wealth of information and a great way to say, you really have to start with yourself. I did get one clarification about you when we were asking about assessments, saying more how often, meaning should I do this once a year? Should I do this every 5 years? How long would you look at sort of going back and reassessing my skills and strengths and values?
If you don't have a job and you've been going at it for a while, I would go back and look at your list, and all three of the lists, especially the Strengthsfinders talents, weekly. You need to remind yourself. You need to understand not only what they are, but what they mean. It will bring you back to thinking about strengths and other people's strengths and where you can fit in, and keep you in a place that's optimistic and positive, rather than thinking about, oh, I don't have what they need, or I have this or that weakness that's going to be hard to overcome. Mm-hmm. You need to be of generous spirit. You need to be of positive attitude. Mm-hmm. And you need to just think about what you have to offer over and over. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to actually do these assessments over and over, but you want to remind yourself of the results.
Right. There are a few questions coming in, and sort of to sum up your talk about, okay, next steps. And I thought I might just take a few minutes to let people know that we offer a few resources. And you are a great resource, and you're always available to people. And as you mentioned, this is basically a guide for developing your vision for your ideal job, your company. It provides you with language to use for selling yourself in your elevator pitch or, in networking or things like that. We have a set of online tools that we call the Brown Alumni Career Navigator that we, tried to say, okay, what resources would people need? And the first one obviously was assessment. You've covered that greatly. We also have another tool called Focus. It is a pretty basic tool. It's great for those just getting out of college. It's a good starting tool. I think it's another way, but it's probably not as good as some of the stuff you've recommended. But we've had some good success with it, and it's a nice online thing that was easy for us to offer. What is a really big part of the assessment test, especially for those who are advanced in their career, is to be able to use the coaching program. And this is great for complex career questions, branding, understanding your value in the workplace, transition, burnout, executive development, those types of issues. The second resource we have to offer is in the area of research. As you start to figure out what it is you're looking for a job, then you need to find where do you do that. What is the name of the career? What is the industry? What's the company? As you've defined your values and you know what, I really am interested in nonprofits or a small environment where we can all be a leader. That's where you're going to do your career research. And the career search tool is a great way to do that. Just a nice feature of that I wanted to mention is you do a search on employers in California in a certain career area, and it will give you lists. It will also list contacts on that list. And if you're currently logged in to your LinkedIn profile, it will show you who you might actually be connected to at those companies. So just a nice perk as well. Another resource we offer is our job board. From the inception, we've maintained over 300 active jobs. This is mainly a Brown alumni to alumni job board. What's great about it is that you can set up search agents and you'll receive weekly updates on pertinent jobs for you. You can look through any employers who are in our database, whether they have an active job or not, and their contacts, which are most often alumni, so that gives you a nice connection. In addition, it is an easy posting format for you alums out there who know of jobs to share those positions, so I would encourage you all to do that. The jobs do come and go every day, so go in, sign up, set up a search agent so that you're missing out, even if you're not in an active job search. Another tool that we offer is BrewNet. That is your professional Brown network, and what's attractive about BrewNet is that this is a list of people who really want to help. They've said, yes, I am here as a resource for my fellow Brown alumni and Brown students. And plus, you've got that extra level of something to talk about. Search people who were also in the Brown Derbies or also were a DJ for WBRU, something like that. Of course, there's broader networks. We have, I think it's 5,000 people also. I think it might be 7 now on our LinkedIn group. Plus, there are several specialty groups that are very active. So please check out our website, check out the resources that are available to you. So this is the end of this webinar, but wanted to let you know that this series will continue through May. Our next 2 webinars in January and February will be by Matt Packness and Karen Hoffman. So if you would like more information or you'd like to register, please go to our website. You could also follow us on Twitter because we usually tweet when the webinars are up, when you can register. We will also put it out there when this webinar is uploaded so that you can watch it. So thanks for joining today, and thank you, Shel. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. If you'd like to contact Shel, sorry, Shel, I just remembered. I just wanted to give a shout out that on our website is a link to all your information, and plus right here is his contact information, as well as ours. Shel, did you have any last words for us?
Pat Riley, a famous championship NBA coach, once said, if you should have, could have, would have, you would have. And now, after you've done these assessments, you have your should have, your values, your could have, your skills, and your would have, what you really want from the strengths and talents you learn about yourself. So my thought is, don't be like so many people who get stuck in 3 to get ready. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, cat, go. Thank you again for your interest. I look forward to hearing from you by email.
Thank
I hope
you.
I have
Thank
the
everyone.
opportunity to offer further advice in what you're doing with your life.
Thank you, Shel. Thank everyone for attending.